kind of brought up by an African man. He taught me what being a man was all about. We always see Africa in a really bad light. It's not true to what Africa is. Never felt white, but always felt Scottish. These call us half-caste. You're not fully accepted by black people. A lot of people be scared to go to Africa. It's a safer place than London. Salon is beautiful, man.
Adibody.
So a lot of what Jamaicans do is what a lot of Africans do anyway.
If we think about black British, I'm rarely thinking about spirituality because I've shown more about nowadays hip-hop, drill.
Yeah, I felt serious racism. I've never been called a white. I've been called a black, blah, 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 quite a lot. I had uncles that had been beaten up badly by police. Brutal beatings. You look like a little N-word. You look like a little...
Who makes the best food?
I feel like it's going to get tense now.
The world will be how you decide to make it.
Welcome back to Evolve. Today, it is an honor for us to be here with Jason, who is of African, Caribbean, and Scottish heritage. We're going to be That's it. We're going to be discussing culture, the influences, and his upbringing. So could you please introduce yourself?
Again, thank you for having me on your podcast today. As you said, my name is Jason Bangura. The Bangura part is African. So it goes back to the heritage, kind of brought up by an African man, my grandfather. Just a normal guy. Grew up in East London with all the fun, all the struggles, and just a real life. And well, hopefully there's something interesting to listen to, but I'm not sure. We'll see. But yes, thank you for having us here. And that's kind of me. Maybe you'll find out more as we go through the journey.
Thank you. Again, it's an honor. And I think already there's a similarity there. I was influenced heavily and raised with a Ghanaian West African grandfather, who's not obviously here with us today, but his values are still always
ingrained.
So,
ingrained, man.
And was it where exactly was your grandfather from? And
so he's from Leone, Sierra Leone. And yeah, I had a lot of family here from Sierra Leone as well, cousins, and it was great because, like I said, my father was kind of more of an absent father, not a bad man, just absent. So basically brought up by my grandfather. See him every day, take us to school, see him every morning. To the point where, I had the key to the house, the only person who had the key to the house. It was strange because I don't actually remember a million conversations with him because it was telepathic. Literally look at him, I know what he's thinking, he knows what I'm thinking, and we were just in sync. So, I was lucky to have him because he taught me what being a man was all about. And not by words, just by actions, Renowned for his food. So whenever he was cooking, everyone wanted to eat his food, But because I was number one, no one could get their plate before me. So, and if there's only one plate left, he knew it was mine.
What were some of those dishes?
Oh, everything, man. From chicken, we do rice and peas, fufu, okra, a million different dishes. Back then, you kind of, it's not like today where you have all the produce from all around the world. So they would, use things like peanut butter and whatever else to make up little dishes. And you didn't have all the spices, and they would, customize using other things and paprika and that kind of stuff. And, you couldn't even get red and yellow and green peppers back in the day. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just fufu, which I love. As a kid, we all loved fufu. And I would say it's strange. When you eat from the same bowl with people, and you're not fighting over the food, you just eat. Just that action of eating together, sitting around, watching him, mix up there. Sometimes it was done with semolina, sometimes you'd pan some yam or something like that, just depending. Everyone's there and you're eating the same soup and you're eating the same fufu, and you would just share. So you kind of bond differently, I think, when you're eating from the same bowl. So you become tight from, 3, 4 years old, you're doing that, and you look forward to it. It's like it was always exciting having food and sitting together. So
Yeah, no, I also grew up eating a lot of fufu when I was younger. But in terms of spice, was that I don't really know too much about the Sierra Leonean food.
um,
Was it spicy or?
yeah, it's spice. It's West African food. The thing with Ceylon is we're from a place called Freetown, and I don't know if you've seen the movie Armistead. So there's a movie called Armistead where there was they had some slaves that actually they took over the boat and they were freed basically, but they were freed back to Freetown in Sierra Leone.
Ah.
So basically, all the slaves were taken to Sierra Leone once they were freed, and so you had a mixture in Ceylon, so Freetown, Nigerian, Ghanaians, like most of the West Africans. They would all go there. So you ended up with, you had your tribal languages. So I'm Timini, my grandfather was Timini, but you got Mendi, a few others. They were the two biggest tribes there. But then you'd have what you would call the Pidgin English,
Uh-huh.
or Creole, people would call it something like that.
Adibody.
Anybody, so yeah. That was a mixture of a lot of the West African languages coming together and with the English in there as well. So, and Ceylon was sort of an English colony, so that was the next language as compared to sort of maybe Senegal, which I think is French or whatever else.
Yeah, that's it. Because I used to live in Reunion Island, and they identify as Creole, but also speak Creole language.
Yeah.
So when I met people for the first time from Sierra Leone, I hear Creole. I realized actually no, because there's many different types of Creoles, and so it's a mix from.
It's a mix because, like you say, they have their own dialects, their own Nigerian and Ghanaian, or it's a different language. And then you had influences from all of those, plus with the European side, the English side, probably a bit of French and Spanish and whatever else in there as well, Dutch, so.
Yeah, so as a kid, if we're starting from there with your grandfather, what were the key kind of values that I guess influenced you? I mean, you spoke of this kind of telepathy and connection, but for my case, it was very stern with the Ghanaian side. But I don't know, how would you describe the upbringing?
Yeah, I would say, for me, he wasn't a stern man. I actually remember him telling me off once ever. And we're in his house and we're by the front door and he's had to give me some stir because he had a deep African accent. It was always funny watching my friends try and understand what he said because they would just nod. He'd say something and they'd go like that and I'd laugh because they ain't understood a word that he said. All right. And so he told me off anyway this time. And I just looked at him. He looked at me and we started laughing because it just weren't the way. He never had to tell me off. If he told me to do something, I suppose it was ingrained, just good manners. You had to have certain manners and whatever else. But, he just spoilt me. And he spoilt me in different ways. He didn't have much. When he was working, he was a baker. And, when he got let off from that, he didn't, money was tight for him, but he didn't need much. It was, couldn't read or write either. So, a lot of the time, like I said, he would come down to us in the morning before I got to school. And back then, it's a place called Cable Street. So I don't know if you ever had the Jewish riots on Cable Street. Okay. So, what today's Brick Lane and Cable Street and Stepney, that area, it was really predominantly African, or Irish, Scottish. There's a strong Asian community there today. A lot of Jewish were there, and Maltese. So it was like you had like arches and cafes, and there was gambling places, and all various different things that were going on at that time.
I relate to that in many ways because I also grew up in London. But I'm wondering, where do you think that community spirit came from? Because it was so multicultural. Where did that come from?
I think it was everyone was just trying to to survive and do. I think a lot of it, you didn't have, you were poor, so you tried to have a good time. So I remember a lot of house parties. You know, people would have their own parties and bring a bottle or whatever it was, you know. But you didn't have the drugs element in society back then. And I think drugs was probably a big player in just killing the community, where you couldn't trust people anymore. People would, you know, started stealing off each other and stuff like that. Whereas it wasn't like that when I kind of grew up. And yeah, so I just think you were all in the same boat. Once, I always say, if you want to get rid of racism, you just move. I don't like communities that are just one culture. Move people next door to each other and they become close. Their children become even closer, because you don't see, when you're growing up, you don't see colour or anything like that. So I always refer back to a cousin I've got, Daniel. He's Grenadian, dark skinned Grenadian, but he's best friend. You couldn't put a piece of paper between them. Was like a pasty white Irish guy, right? And if you troubled one, you troubled both. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, you know, it was a lot of just working class people trying to make ends meet. You know, the 70s wasn't a great time economically. Like the end of the 70s, the 60s and the 70s generation, you know, people still wore flares and stuff like that. It's another story. You know, my mum tried to put me in flares and I broke down. But, right? But we were in that era. We had afros. You know, if you had a big afro, you were cool. You know what I mean? I was lucky I had a serious afro, as did my
Need
mum.
to get a photo, hopefully, we go.
I'll have to pass you, but I had a blonde afro, so I was blonde as a kid.
Did you ever feel like there was ever any kind of divides or tension or anything?
No, like I said, I was lucky because I come, like, after my mum's generation. They, you know, they had a lot more issues, and there, you know, there were some hard times because a lot of her generation, my uncles and whatever, they went through the care system as well. You know, where the society would take you away from parents, and you know, there's a lot of drinking. You know, my grandmother's age, a lot of them, alcohol was the big problem, if anything. You know, I grew up. It was a strong NF era, so you had the National Front. And don't get me wrong, I felt serious racism at times. You know, I didn't ever feel like the police were something for me. I was always wary of the police. But I had uncles that had been beaten up badly by police, brutal beatings. You know, we used to get, I was made to feel scared of the police. You know, you're talking, you're 6, 7 years old, and police officers would come and intimidate you. You know, the way they would talk, you shout at you. You know, you kind of yourself. You used to worry. But you had the National Front. But again, it was like we had a lot of white people that were in our circle, but you had the National Front and skinheads and everything back in that day as well. And you knew it was strange from a very young age. I knew that pub was dangerous to walk past, or that place was dangerous to walk past. You know, I experienced a few Heil Hitler signs and stuff like that at a very, very young age. You know, that stuff used to go on. But my uncles, and like I said, they were quite an aggressive generation. So they could all fight, all a little bit wild. And they would take that on. So there were the clashes with National Front. There were, you know, fights going on. And like I say, but you weren't just, you know, you had a lot of white people that I knew, like, who I regarded as uncles and everything as well. Just like they were friends, but they were kind of family. So it was, you had two sides, you know, and they were against the NF stuff. Do you get what I'm saying? They'd probably get more upset than like the people who had colour in their skin, if you get what I'm saying. So, but that kind of dispersed. Like I said, I think my generation, we weren't really, and if there were areas in East London, Poplar, some of Poplar, Canning Town, who's a little bit more, not as diverse, you know. But I grew up sort of Shoreditch, so it's basically Hackney Road. But then you had Oxton, and you still had these little tensions, but I think by the time I'd got to secondary school, that was all kind of put to bed, you know?
But I think, I mean, I can relate to growing up here as someone with Black and Asian family and feeling like, okay, I definitely cannot go anywhere near that pub or in there because, you know, I'm also white, and I'm wondering, how do you feel? Like, how was it for you growing up knowing that, I don't know, maybe people might consider you in terms of, like, physically, do they regard you as a Black man, but then also you are white and African, and did those kind of, did you have some sort of thoughts about that?
It's a strange dynamic because culturally, I think I'm more on the Black side because both, like I said, both my parents look like me. My mum's fair, my dad's quite dark. So I grew up a lot on, because I was always told my name's Bangura, right? Or Bangura, say it properly. So I was always brought up sort of strong on the African history, to be proud of who you are. Because back then, when I was young, there weren't that many Africans about. Do you get me? So it was mainly, like in my schools, mainly Jamaican heritage, which changed today. You know, I worked in education for 14 years, and half the school, or half of Hackney's now Africans, or Nigerians and Ghanaians. Do you get me? But so you know, if I had I'd have arguments over my name. You know what I mean? Because Bangura, and even Black kids are like, Bangura, what kind of name is this? And this, well, my family fought. We didn't get captured. It was, you know, you'd stand up for yourself, that kind of thing. So yeah, you'd have, you know, that dynamic.
No, but basically this is it. I mean, in the same way that the way I look, it's easy and like publicly to talk about my Asian heritage, and that's kind of acceptable. But in the same way, we are both technically white men. If I'm an Asian man and you're a Black man, then we are also white at the same time. And I just, the fact that, you know, you can be proud and stick up for that African side, but also is, you know, being Scottish, for example, and having that, were you exposed to those cultures as well, and the mix of all of it?
It's strange. It's strange. I've never felt white because I weren't. All right, so I've never been called a white. Pardon my French. No, I've been called a Black, blah 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 blah, quite a lot. So I suppose I lean more on that side. But I'm very clearly, I spent, you know, a lot of my 6-week holidays going up to Scotland with my grandmother. I was very close to my grandmother. So I never really felt, I always knew I weren't white because I weren't really accepted in that culture. And it was the quiet stuff. It's done like going to school, the way teachers would treat you, you know, if you did something to someone else, or if the police were going to stop you, you know, if there's a white guy here and there was us here, we're getting a problem, right? So you kind of knew you weren't. But also, like I said, you're not fully accepted by Black people either, to some degree. It's like you're in, but, you know, there's still slight differences. So I had a very strong identity of just being a mixed brother because, and it's strange because I've seen dynamics where I've got, you know, some cousins who grew up in other areas and they're a bit fairer, might have straight hair, but they're mixed, you know. A lot of their friends would be white guys and they'd hear the banter in the pubs, but they'd have an issue with their Black side. Didn't really want to identify with their Black side because their main group was mainly on the white side. So but that was a white mum and a Black parent. I never had that because both my parents looked exactly like me, as did my uncles. You know, most of my friends, all my cousins, we all looked the same. So I was happy to just be, we were mixed, you know. They used to call us half-caste back then.
Yeah, I was also called half-caste around here back in the day as well, yeah.
The crazy thing is, man, I've also got Scottish blood, you know. So
Yeah,
you know, we're more in
proud,
common than we
promise,
look,
man.
bro.
We're
You
proud.
know what I mean? Yeah.
It's like the Scottish heritage I keep. So when I got married to my now wife, I got married in trews, and all my groomsmen, they were in kilts. And it was strange because we got married in Canterbury, but we stayed. I booked out a load of hotels in Deal, right? So my wife, I think, is the Rose. So it's like, I think they got 4 or 5 rooms there. Lovely, lovely place, lovely rooms. But she had that. And so I remember we were staying scattered all like we had 120 people. So the morning of the wedding, we're all in our trews and kilts and everything. We're all black guys. And
Oh, we have a photo of that to show as well.
I could dig the my wife's got a load of it. And we're walking from our hotel to the Rose where my wife was, but we can't see each other, but we're just, because that's the hotel we're going to go into after the wedding. And as we're walking around, we've got our little suitcases, and yeah, it's a lovely day. Sun, hottest day of the year. We had rain for 3 weeks leading up to it. And I was telling my cousin, boy, the weather, so the force is strong. And it ended up the hottest day of the year.
That ain't a coincidence, is
Yeah,
it? Go on.
do you understand? But yeah, so, you know, we're walking around and people are coming up to us like, oh, because you don't think about it until it happens, but it must have been the strangest thing to see. And some of my people, they're dark skinned black people in kilts, right? But they look cool because there's something about the outfit. They're sharp. The kilt is sharp. So, and yeah, the people walking, are you filming? What are you doing? They're taking pictures. You know, I'm just straight people walking past, just wanting to know what's going on because it was different. So, yeah, it's like I've always kept that Scottish side of me, but it's a strange dynamic. So when you talk about colour, I've kind of never felt white. But always felt Scottish.
Wow.
Do you get what I'm saying? So it's slightly different, and that's why I got married in the kilt, and it was like kind of homage to my Scottish side and my grandmother. And you know, like I said, we spent a lot of time up there, you know, in the holidays growing up.
How did the Scots receive you? That's
Oh man, I used to get looked at. It was strange because you did have like, can I feel your hair type stuff. They're very humble people. So you were different. I kind of, you know, like I said, there'd be times like, can I feel your hair? Because I used to have I'd rather afro or it was crop short. So, you know, 2 on the top, faded on the side kind of thing. Or the same all over with a parting down the side. Back then. And but if I had the afro, you know, I'd want to feel your hair, but you were different. You know, it wasn't done out of malice. I remember one time, and this is like the race element that comes into it. I can't remember where it was, but we were in Scotland and we've gone to sort of a beach area. And I remember it's beautiful. I'll never forget it because when I had my hair cropped short, it would sparkle gold because it's blonde, and it would sparkle. All right. So beautiful summer, and I go dark. So I've got 2 colours. Like in the summer, very dark. And in the winter, I'm quite pale. So, but I'm golden, but like really dark golden. And we've got an ice cream. There's like a kiosk here to get the ice cream, and I'm eating the ice cream. And some old Scottish lady comes up to me. She's, oh, look at your colour. Like, look how golden, look how dark your skin's got. You look like a little, I'm going to say the N word here. You look like a little, you know, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it, you know?
Yeah.
So you look like the little N word. And I remember even then, just now, whether she meant malice or not, I'm really not sure. But I knew if I tell my nan, this lady's in trouble. And then, but I also remember just saying to myself at that age, like, if only you knew. And that's kind of, you know, you brushed it off. So, and again, I want to know if she meant it in a bad way, because I was, because of the golden hair, it would throw people. So they just thought I was a little white kid.
With a very nice tan.
With a beautiful tan, you know? And yeah, it's like, you know, blonde afro. People used to call me Guinness. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Wait. It's a bit similar, isn't it?
yeah, a little bit like that coffee. Yeah. So yeah, it was. But you know, Scotland was brilliant. Like, I used to go salmon fishing, and uncles would take me out on day boats and like that. So never felt away, and never no other race issue up there at all from that one sort of ice cream moment. Never felt away. Yeah, always was just looked after up there.
Hakim often says something like, you know, regardless of, you know, the outside, whatever people say or think, that doesn't dictate who you are and, you know, your identity, you know.
Yeah, you know, and you develop as well. Like I say, my identity is how can I say? I'm a man. I'm a human. You know, I've got different elements to me. You know, as you grow up and you contemplate life, I'm proud of being African. I do identify with certain things. I'm not a religious man, and I'm not a nationalist, because, you know, through thinking about life, you realize that, well, actually it's these things that create the divide. We're just all here on the earth, man. And we should be free to travel and experience each other's cultures. Because I love cultures. I like the fact that they cook meat that way and this person cooks it and they don't even eat meat. For me, that's kind of experience that you can get a lot of blessings from that experience. I don't like to just be this, you know. But people need to put you in a box at times for their own securities, for their own. But that security is actually causing the problem as well. Strangely, do you get what I'm saying? It's kind of perpetual, feeds itself.
Yeah.
I think, like growing up with a very mixed family, we would banter, you know, even siblings, some of the siblings. I mean, my brother's darker than I am. We always back and forth teasing each other. And then some of my Pakistani family, because it's very mixed, even the genetics there, one brother will be dark skinned with afro hair and his sister's super light. And then we've got the white family, and spending time in Reunion Island, which is similar to the Jamaican culture. There are Chinese people from, you know, they call them Chinois, you know, the people who are Creole. They got Indian origins, Chinese origins, and you would tease each other. You'd refer to someone by the white guy, the Asian, the black guy, the whatever, and there wasn't malice to it. But now I guess people are so apprehensive and very anxious around just describing differences that it has become, you know, everyone's on eggshells all the time, when I think we can, again,
we're too PC today. It's strange. I think half the time the people that are speaking up for people on race issues are the least that know about it. You know, generally a lot of these, I call them educational establishment, sort of middle class people who actually have been quite divided from other cultures, seem to get more offended than what the people themselves get offended by. Banter is something that you get in East London, any poor community, anyone that's come from where things are hard. Banter is a way of getting through it. I had white friends, black friends, and we could call each other things in terms of each other's colour. If you were outside that group, it wasn't allowed. Do you get what I'm saying? But you know, we used to go to the barbers going to the barbers was a big thing. It was like every fortnight, barbers. We go to Hackney, and we'd have a couple of our white brothers with us, and we'd play on the race issues, because, you know, we'd walk in there and one of us would chat at, you N-word again, and then everyone would look at our white mate. You know, because, you know, the whole street's full of black people and everyone just look at him and he didn't know what to do, you know. So you would play on stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? But it just you just didn't see the colour thing. It was it weren't a problem, man. It was my crew, everything was, we just Bangladesh, Pakistani, Irish, white, like whatever. It was just, the crew was so eclectic. You were just your crew. That was your people. So it just didn't matter.
Yeah, I think if you look at the sometimes newspapers now, TV, media, there was a time where I thought, wow, every white person's against everyone and all of this kind of ridiculous narrative that in reality, you know, with Jack and Clem, we banter a lot about them being white, me being Asian and all of those things. And there's no harm in it. For me, it's the opposite. That's when you really got love for people.
It's a bond.
You will, yeah. So
but that's also like one thing I do realize, like, you all got that kind of, there's an English kind of humor to it. So, you know, because we all got our own little ways. It's a simple, it's just enjoying each other. If you're all the same, it's boring.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
it's stale, it's stagnant, it's robotics. At the end of the day, your brothers, you know, if you was in a problem, you needed some help, they'd help you out, man. And that's it. You do being mixed, it's funny. I was like, my best friend in school, a guy called Paul Micallef, Maltese guy. You know, I remember we had Kappa jackets, we bought the same jackets, and you know, this is breakdancing's first coming out, high-tech boots and skate laces and all that kind of stuff. And but when you go to secondary school, being mixed, you kind of find your black side. So it's like we started hanging out more with black people and doing sort of jams. So because back then, like, everyone was an MC. We used to have like a dance crew or whatever else. Back in the day, they would have called it a shubs. When you get into secondary school, again, you're exploring yourself. And you come into, I would say, growing up, Jamaican, Caribbean influence was very strong. Like I said, today in Hackney, there's a lot of young African boys, and you got Afro beats and everything. That didn't exist when I was growing up. So it was like reggae was the big thing. And my generation was ragga, you know, and so everyone used to try and chat and whatever else. And so that influence was really strong. A lot of your twang was Jamaican twang. So it wasn't so much the African twang that was coming in or anything like that. And where my school was situated, like I said, we had a lot of Caribbean influence, Jamaican influence, I'd say number one. And you don't get wrong, you had the odd African kid in there, proper East London Cockney white boy culture in there, like from Bethnal Green and Poplar, like proper geezerish type people, Stepney and all of that. So yeah, so you do, I think when you get to secondary school, you kind of go through that phase. And oh man, I did some terrible fashion growing up, man. I remember I had shaved head this side, picky locks that side. Some weird stuff I went through, man. More punkish than anything else. But you know, it's funny. I put these socks on today, and we used to be little ragamuffins, and you used to sort of fold your jeans up so you could see your socks. Now these socks were a big thing. Wallabies were shoes that were Jamaican shoes, you know? That influence was definitely passed down from Jamaica, because basically ragga, or the dressing like that, was actually back there. A lot of your clothes were too big because they're hand-me-downs. So you made that into a fashion. Do you get what I'm saying? And wallabies were cheap and everything, but you made them cool. The music back then was all Jamaican music. You had hip hop as well then as well. So which was just another, you know, it's strange. I say today, I feel sad because the music today is too aggressive. And I think this is where Afro beats has taken over, because it sings to the soul. It's a happier music. It's a different vibration. Whereas some of the drill and the hip hop it's so thuggish that and it shapes your mentality. You know, I've had it happen to me. I've gone out clubs and, you know, back then it was like NWA or something like that, colours. And you don't realise when you're young, but you know, your mood would go bad man kind of flex. The tune would change and all of a sudden you're kind of thing, rather than just enjoying and partying and whatever else, you know. So I think music you listen to does play a massive role, especially shaping young people's outlook. I got into the whole Rasta thing. It was I think listening to people like Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and those kind of guys, they were deeper messages, you know, because they're talking about the struggle. You're going through things as you're growing up, you know, you're kind of finding your way. Half the time you're lost or whatever else, you know. So, and you're negotiating what you're going to do, because when I grew up, you had two professions, and that was construction or crime. There was I didn't hear about university. So I don't know anyone in my year that went to university. Well, not one. It was definitely when we didn't leave school. Probably a lot of them went when they got to sort of 25 or 30. And university was kind of spoken about then, because my cousin's 2 years younger than me, but his year, a few of them went to university. But just there was, in between those 2 years, there's such a gap in the mentality. And I always remember just always being told construction. You know, you never went, there was nothing else. Or you were never going to be an engineer or, you know, a doctor. It just didn't come into the picture. It was kind of, you went on site or you did things that were naughty. And that was kind of what it was like.
It's interesting because you said that you refer to that as the black side. I mean, my dad's white, but he was raised by his Ghanaian father, not by blood, stepfather. But even my dad, having that black African influence, he was drawn to Jamaican music his whole life. Yeah. So I grew up listening to ragga, reggae my entire life. And I felt close to that, even just from being around Africans. For some reason, in the UK, it is like black clumps together, not only Caribbean influences. It's a blend. So I'm interested to speak about, when you refer to the black side, was that mainly Jamaican culture? So what is black, basically, is the question here.
Back then, it would have been a lot of Jamaican influence. So we already had the African in us anyway. And like I said, people are not that different. Do you get me? So a lot of what Jamaicans do is what a lot of Africans do anyway as well. But that was the predominant music. That was the sound system. You know, you go to all day. As I say, there was no Afro beats. You didn't listen to Afro. I listened to African music my grandfather played. That was it. But you never heard it outside. Because the dominant influence was Jamaican and hip hop. Do you get me? So the American and Jamaican influence in terms of music. So if you went out, that's what you were dancing to. And there were the twangs that you would pick up as well, you know? So, like I say, that's a lot different today. You know, you go to a party, Afrobeats is, you know, I've been to Cuba, I've been all around the world. I've sat with people that, you know, Iranian, Iraqis, and they're dropping Afrobeats.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So music goes across, but today and I love the Afrobeats because I just like the vibe. It's not so, it's clean, it's upbeat. There's something about it. It's feel good music, you know? But that's why I love reggae. I love like roots reggae because it's feel good music. You know, it's there's a deepness to it. It can save you as a young person. Like I said, I think listening to conscious reggae growing up helped me a lot. Because like I said, you're trying to work out the world, fears and dangers, and, you know, you're not feeling good or, you know, that kind of stuff. And listening to just having an adult that kind of telling you, giving you some advice for your music can help. You know, and I found it helped me. So going into the conscious, like growing the locks, pardon me, growing the locks, went into that Jamaican side, we, st- strangely enough, the Rastas, they went back to Africa. Do you get me? So it was kind of, I was getting both anyway through that side, because it was that they was very into where they've come from and that kind of thing. So it depends where you were. It's like, I know West London had a lot of Grenadians, you know, Hackney and South London, lot of Jamaicans. And in the area where I grew up, sort of Stepney, other parts, a lot of African, you know, because I grew up in East London, council estate, you grow up with the good and the bad. And I'd seen people go off and do amazing things, like move to America and become a CEO. So, and they're like, oh, how did he do that? And then there'd be other people that people were scared to look at, you know, because they're dangerous people. And I just like, what makes somebody this way or that way and whatever else?
This whole thing started off by speaking about connecting to a black side. But really what I think the conversation, I mean, what you just mentioned has shown is that it's so deep. You know, even just Rastafarianism on its own is a separate topic. The Caribbean culture has its unique, I mean, even just Jamaican culture is so deep. Then the African cultures are deep. But then media, especially in the UK, on screen, this is just black. And really, I think now, especially as you mentioned in London, there are Somalis, we have Sudanese friends who are black. But their cultures are completely different to what would be associated with whatever black or the look is. And yeah, I think I'd encourage anyone to just, again, read about all the different cultures, experience those cultures, and not, for me, I found it a bit, I mean, suddenly I'm a British Asian, but then someone from China's Asian and their culture is, there's similarities and differences, but I feel like reducing ourselves sometimes to
labels,
unfortunately. I mean, because if we think about Black British, I'm rarely thinking about spirituality in the way that you mentioned it, because I've shown more about nowadays hip hop, drill, like you said. So yeah, for me, it was always about appreciating culture in a much deeper way than just whatever brown is or black is or even white, because French and Spanish culture with Clem is still way deeper than just
no, there's like, I love cultures. Like I said, it's why I love London to some degree as well, because the cuisine, there's pockets of things that you can go and do that just different, and it adds to your life. All right, it's if it was just all the same, it would be really robotic and boring. You need different cultures. I think we have an issue when we put one culture before another. We all got equal value. Enjoy the great bits, and all of us need to contemplate on things. What I don't like to hang on to, because I think life evolves. So you take the nice bits that are worth keeping, and some others we need to put to bed. You know, it's in every culture. I remember we had a neighbor, Fatima, and when she got married, Asian girl, I see her every day. You know what I mean? I see her every single day. Just Fatima. It's a normal girl to me. And then I see her at a wedding, dressed red sari, beautiful, all this gold hanging from her. I'm like, oh, she's beautiful, man. I'm like this high. But I just saw a whole different side. And then I spent the rest of the day just eating tandoori and just killing the food, right? And like the food was just the one for me. And but just seeing that was like, wow. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what I love about culture, is how people express what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Because the root of all of us is that we love, you know, we care, we laugh, we cry. Everyone does that.
Yeah.
So it's just enjoying the expression that people, their flavor, you know, enjoying their flavor, man.
How has your relationship with West Africa evolved over time, from younger?
Oh man, it's West Africa is strange. So when I haven't been for years. I went, I was about 17. When I left, I cried. All right. It's hard to express. There was just something deep about being there. Because I saw my grandfather in a different light as well. And I see where he come from. You know, I knew him here, when I went there, and I just knew him differently. I could see the struggle. He used to dive in the sea for tourists and stuff like that. I remember there's a story. He's got a scar on his leg. He said, "That's where I got attacked by a shark." All right. No one believed him until our uncle said, "Oh, this is where your father got bit by a shark." So he got bit by a shark. You know what I'm saying? It was true, yeah. And it's like, so yeah, it's just that going back there, like it, you know, if we ever got to the time where we've got riches and time to spare, I'd definitely do something back home. Just 'cause I think it would make him proud, and you just got to help where you can. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in handouts. I believe in hand ups. You know what I'm saying? So I'd definitely love to do something back home. My aunt's out there. She, you know, she got a little hotel and a nice little something there. So my mum's sister. So we've got sort of feet on the ground out there as well. So it'd be nice to get out there and do something. Want to take all my children and that kind of stuff. I don't ever want to lose that affinity. And it's strange because my grandfather's name was Mulai. So my son is called Mulai. And and I'm Jason Mulai Bangura. So I'm hoping my son's gonna call his son Jason Mulai Bangura, and then his son will call Mulai Jason Bangura. All right. So I'm hoping to keep the name in the family, but that will be what it is. It's you know, I look at it's strange. I look at my kids. My kids are fair, very fair. My youngest one, you'd never know. Do you get me? You'd never know she's got this mix in her. But to have that name will always refer back to her roots. Do you get what I'm saying? So it don't matter how they change. Because as time, you know, she may get married and, you know, it could be with a Chinese guy or something. But if that name can stick around, then they know there's always a tie back to this place, Timony, back in Ceylon. So,
And speaking of your kids, what would you say is one of the most valuable life lessons you've learned through your story, your journey, that you would share with them?
oh, it's probably so many. Be you. That your uniqueness in the world is you. So try not to waste your time being like others. If someone's doing something that's good, great, that you admire, you can take bits off people, but you'll only ever be you. If you want to do something, you got perseverance is a key in life. If you it's easy to give up. So I think you need a strength. If you believe in something, you got to follow your own belief, because other people won't believe your aims or your story or whatever it is that you want. It's only down to you to believe that. So yeah, perseverance and be you, man. This is like you're here for a reason. Your story's yours. You know, as a parent, sometimes you want to control your child, but you got to remember they're their own entity. They're their own person now. So you shape, and then you have to accept whatever it is they're going to do, because it's their life. It's not yours. You've had your opportunity. Now it's their opportunity. So that's it.
Yeah, it's funny because for you it was the sharks. For your grandfather, my grandfather used to speak about swimming with crocodiles.
Yeah,
you know,
you
and,
see?
and in England, when you hear about that, it sounds
Yeah, it's a different world out
yeah.
there, man. But it's a beautiful. Ceylon is beautiful, man. It's like tropical. You know, it's I first you go and have breakfast, you see vultures watching you, stuff like that. It's some strange stuff, man. So I wish I was connected more with back home, you know, but I'm hoping maybe that will happen with my kids and my grandchildren. So we'll see.
And building on that, I mean, as someone who obviously doesn't look African, or West African, you know, traditionally black, something I felt so honored and blessed is that my family from Ghana never treated me like an outsider. And that you know, there are obviously differences, and maybe you can comment on that, but I obviously do not look like any of them. But there was a love that as soon as I showed them that I have family from there and I respected the culture, despite not always being accepted by white people or other Pakistanis so much, there was just a different feeling that I felt. But I'm wondering for you, as a mixed, I don't know.
Yeah, I never felt away. I'd never had to sort of question myself in the family or anything like that. It's always loved. It was never kind of you're different. You know, I've been to Ghana. Ghana's a very peaceful people. They're a very soft, kind people. Africa, I would say a lot of people's idea on Africa is so wrong. It's probably safer than London. You know, a lot of people be scared to go to Africa. It's a safer place than London. You will say hello. You catch the eye of a stranger, someone you ain't got a clue who they are. It's how as the body. Good morning.
The body finds.
The body finds that. So, you know, there was that sense of being nice, man. Like real civil people that they're kind. And some of them going from some heavy struggles. Ghana, you know, I think a lot sometimes in the please, thank you. You know, when someone says please, thank you, just to say thank you, it shows you the kind of softness in their language, in their persona. Yeah, I would say it's a beautiful place. Everyone should go. Everyone should really go to Africa and see it for themselves, because we always see Africa in a really bad light. It's not true to what Africa is, and so you have to go and experience it.
Yeah, I mean, I've traveled to many different countries, and often I come across Africans, even in the street, and in their mind sometimes, I mean, for example, we were in Korea recently, and you just pass someone in the street, and I don't think they would expect someone who looks like me to just come up and greet them. But the switch from them just kind of looking down to, oh, good morning, sir.
Yeah.
The eyes light up and the warmth instantly comes back, and it's sometimes it gets lost in the concrete jungle, but it's always there deep down.
I think that's a good way. The warmth, there's a warmth in the people out there, you know. So definitely, it's a place I'd say everyone should go and see it for yourself, and you'll understand it. It will just open up a lot of things to you.
Do you have any particular memories from your trip that stand out the most?
Oh man, it's so. So we went when my grandfather died. We did like a 40th day ceremony out there, and as the eldest grandson, I was kind of in charge of that day. Right, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. So some traditions coming out. But it got to a point where we had to sacrifice a cow and stuff like that. So, you know, we had to tie the cow up, cut the cow and bleed the cow, and, you know, to Western people, because my mum and all that, like, what? I can't do that. But my granddad used to play tricks like this with chickens back here. So we did that, and then I had a cousin. I had a million cousins out there, to be honest with you. But we took one big leg, so, and she ran off with it. And everyone said, you got to go and catch her. It was like this was part of the ceremony. So I have to go and catch her. She's stolen the leg. I've got to catch her. So I've gone to run after her, and I just thought, so I let her keep it. And they're like, no, you got to get her. You know what I mean? So, I'm going around, and there's like all these one land, and there's like some hut here, and I find her and come back, and then everyone's cheering. No one told me what this was going to happen before it happens. So I'm just like, I come through like, I got the meat, you know, and it was the laughing and the joking. It was just doing something like that, something that was traditional. You know, could we go to the butchers, or we don't even go butchers today, you know, you go to Tesco's and pick up your meat, but going through that ceremony, tying the cow's legs and pulling the towel and going through all of that and chasing your cousin through the fields and whatever else. It was one of the standout moments. My most peaceful memory, strangely enough, is Ceylon. And I used to do a lot of head work, so hypnotherapist and NLP type stuff. So we used to do some regression, and they've said like, what was the most peaceful time you had? And the most peaceful at one that I've ever felt. And when I say at one, I was everything. So we had a canoe. We went over to the Banana Islands in a little canoe. It had a little motor, but it's just a chipped-out wooden canoe. And we spent the day there. It's like speared fish, come back, brilliant, that kind of stuff. But it was on the way back, and it was nighttime, so the moon's shining because no light. There's, the street would be lit if you went past the house that had a generator, kind of thing. And I'm on this canoe coming back, and it's like the islands, Ceylon is silhouetted, stars in abundance, man. And I remember falling asleep on this canoe, I was just at peace. But when I'm remembering this through the hypnotherapy session, it was strange. So I had to keep looking at my hand because in this memory, I put my hand in the water, it became the water, right? And then when I lifted it to the stars, it became the stars. So it was like I was everything. I weren't separate from none of it. It's the real strangest feeling. I remember the whole day I just kept looking at my hand. Because feel the ocean. It's like myself and the ocean was connected. I was connected to the stars. And it was a real, look, it was like was that an awakening? Like this, I am the stars are me. We're not separate.
Mm.
I'm part of this whole system, this whole everything that's here. We're actually part, it is you. It's hard to explain, but I'd say that was kind of the deepest, most spiritual moment and probably the most peaceful moment I had in my life.
The thing of when you're born and raised in, like, for example, England, and we do have, I mean, for you, Scottish blood, English blood. So I do feel connected here, but it's only part of me. Whereas when you go back to, they call it the motherland, there is something that I felt for the first time visiting where my mum was born in the village in Pakistan that I can't explain that sensation, but just, it was one of the most strangest, but also liberating and deep feeling that, wow, this is also where I'm from.
It broadens I always say, we live in horizons, perspectives, and when you go and see something like it, just opens up your perspective. And that's how I say you do in life. You just keep opening up your perspective. So the more you're taking in, the more you're learning, and the more you're coming to terms with, well, not even terms, it's more understanding, and sometimes you aren't words for it. It's like, I just see my grandfather in a totally different way after going to Ceylon. I saw a whole nother side of him that I didn't know. I only knew the UK grandfather, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, and I think building, you mentioned it before, but the whole thing about identity, while it's nice to have your tribe or your group to, kind of wolf pack mentality, I think as I've experienced and got closer to the different sides of my family, I realized that you don't, in my case anyway, I don't need to pick. I mean, I don't need to say I'm only Pakistani, I'm only white. It's allowed me to get close to one doesn't mean I have to then say goodbye to the other. I'm wondering for you with that mixed identity,
I don't like, it used to be a question people would say, being mixed race.
Which one are you more? Are you more black or white? Do you ever get that one?
Or if black people were to have a fight against white people, whose side would you go on? And the best answer I ever gave for that was, well, I would stand in the middle. The first one to hit me would be hit back. It was just like that. It's For me, I am. Right, I have a lot of influences. I've experienced the world in different ways compared to other people. Um, growing up in Spain and borders of Switzerland and stuff, he understands the world outside of the world. I don't. It's just we are expressions. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I am. I just am. I don't need to align. I love being part of my African culture. I love my part of my Scottish culture. I love looking at both. I love history. I'm very much an English person when I go abroad. My mannerisms. And you really sometimes you go to Africa, you're like, yeah, I mean, I'm English. It's like, yeah. But this was my experience. I embrace it. I enjoy it. If we do come back another time, my experience will be different. So yeah, I don't need to align with anyone. I'm a man. I try to be good. Everyone's got things to work on and develop. And I don't really care who you are, where you're from. Myself, like I said, we're all the same. And that's probably the one thing I've learned is growing up in many different communities. We all want our children to do well. We all want to feel safe. We all have feelings. We all laugh and we love laughing. We all have tears if something hurts us or we lose someone. It hurt. So I've not seen any difference in any of the people that I've had the pleasure to being involved with not have that same feeling. So really and truthfully, I think it's just, we just got to realize we're actually 99.9% the same. We express it differently in different places.
Such a beautiful message. And I think there's an initial security we feel sometimes when people look similar to us. It's easy, the kind of shallow way of like, for me, it was our Turkish people or Arab people, suddenly they see me and it's like, oh, we're the same. But then the deeper you get into it, it's like, well, actually, culturally, I'm actually closer to a lot of Ghanaians than I am to a Turkish person. And I realized that surface level kind of physical appearance might feel nice sometimes, but really, as you said, the real connections you have with people are deeper than the color, and it's something really inside connecting to someone.
Yeah, for real. It's I've got brothers from everywhere. It's you got a kindred spirit. They're a kindred spirit. It don't matter what shade or size they come in. They're a kindred spirit. It's culturally, I've got certain mannerisms, how I express myself. But yeah, apart from that, I'm just where you're from. How much does it matter? Be proud of your traditions, but none of it really matters. You just all want to get on and in. Everyone's trying to have the best experience as possible. So influence-wise, I am a million different things. And before I'm gone, I'll probably be a million more different things as well. Just the industry I'm in has shaped me again. So I've gone through stages, what I was like at 15 and 18 and at 21 and 25. And I've been different people throughout. And I think we carry on changing and developing. Come to terms with yourself and try not to be too serious about things, man.
That's why the podcast called Evolve. So we couldn't agree with you more there.
I mean, honestly, I'm left speechless by that. It made me feel a lot. But in line with what you said about not being too serious, I wanted to ask this question somewhere and I didn't know where. It feels like it's not appropriate, but who makes the best food?
Hey.
Feel like it's gonna get tense now.
I'm gonna be honest, right? I'm gonna be honest. If it comes to stuff like jollof, right? Then personally, I think Ceylon makes the best jollof. Then I think it's Ghana, and then Nigeria comes next.
Comments are gonna go mad after we.
And I'll tell you what, all right? Because you know, a lot of my crew is African. A lot of them say Ceylon is number one. All right. And we did win the fest as well. That's what I'm going to say. We did.
A little bit of bias going on
Right.
in this room.
So there's a bias. In terms of food, generally, I love my Caribbean food. I love my African food. I love my Indian. I need it all. I need it all. It's just what I fancy, man. And
Okay.
they all got dishes. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be without any of them. So
I just want to make an observation, though. This is not bias or anything.
Yeah.
The Scots didn't get a mention, bro.
no.
Haggis.
I'll tell you what, right? Because again, it's like my nan is it's weird, mince and totties, but I remember I was I took a friend up to my grandmother once, and so she's cooking. So my because she had to cook for a black man, so she learned how to cook, you know, black people food, real. And I took him up there, a Jamaican friend of mine, and so she just did like a lamb curry, right, with some rice and whatever, some salad. But she would do it. She'd get the whole leg, you know, like the legs, and what do you call it? I can't remember what you'd call them now, but she'd put a few of them in a pot. So when he ate this food, as soon as we left the house, he's like, I didn't know white people like that.
Stamp of approval.
Yeah, man. He was shocked. He's like, and the way, because most of the time you get chopped meat, she would bring the whole leg out, put it on your dish, and it would just fall apart. And yeah, man, this woman make egg and chips like anything she cooks was just tastes good, right? And she's old school. She always want to cook for you. You know what I mean? She always want to cook. But yeah, and he was just like culturally, he woke up like, boy. And then I got an aunt, my Aunt Susan, proper like white Cockney aunt, all right? And she's the only person I know today still has a door open. And all my generation, like you go there, there'll always be someone at the house because she kind of brought up after the neighborhood. Like the woman can cook, you know what I mean? She can like cook a chicken and she has her own little twist on it, but just the culture spread, man. Yeah. So it's not, you know, so yeah, the Scottish nanny, she was there. But I'm a mince and totties, you know, she would do things her way. But you have an influence. And this is like, my mum can cook anything. My mum was a good cook. But you realise they draw from all these different cultures. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a little bit of everything that goes in, which makes it her kind of flavour. So
this may be a controversial statement right now, but whether it's, you know, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, the jollof is different, but the rice inside is still rice.
Still the same. Yeah, it's still rice. Yeah, man. It's like I said, it's nice to have arguments as well, because some arguments are fun at times. So if you can have a little argument over who's got the best jollof, sometimes it's a good bit of fun, man. So, you know, just keep it going. It's nice when you've got a group of friends where you kind of inspire each other. There's no competition.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you're opening up. Sometimes you're just laughing. Our saying is, this group's so strong because it takes a lot of spices, a lot of different spices to make a great soup. And I'll sort of leave it there. It takes a lot of spices to make a good soup.
That's it.
I mean, I got to big up these white boys here because they, you know, when I first met Clemente, his spice tolerance was non-existent.
Yeah.
And the amount of Ghanaian stews he's had with my family and curries, and even the baked beans we make, I've got masala on. The roast dinners we make at home, I've got masala on. And, you know, it is. He's sharing all of that is what life's about.
No, but I swear he's darkened up anyway. You know?
Maybe that's
Yeah.
it's our influence on him.
It is strange. It's like when you're saying with the beans, it's like everything I have has chili in it.
Yeah.
So my breakfast with the beans, they've got chili flake in there, and they put some, but then there's some Worcester sauce, which is my grandmother's thing, Scottish. That was her dish, Worcester sauce. What's the secret flavour? What makes the spaghetti sauce? She loved the Worcester sauce in things. And we do it with our beans, right? So we might put cheese on them and chilies and all that. Our gravy, My wife, she puts chili in there. She'll get different sauces from the meat, the veg, and she'll add a few little herbs. And the gravy's always got a spice. A roast dinner's even got a little kick to it. You know what I mean? It's a proper roast dinner. Just a slight twist and a kick in the gravy. And it makes it nice, man. So
I mean, even the Jamaican food, I mean, you got the roti and the fusion of the cultures when you just keep blending it and you find that it's
the food, like, I love Caribbean food. I love all food. You know, I love, like, the best steak I had was in Bilbao. You know what I mean? And that's Spain. And I will always remember that steak, you know? So it's just what people, when it comes from the heart, right? When people want to see you eating their food, you're eating good food. It's just as simple as that. You know what I mean? And when you grow up with our culture, a little bit of pepper is always needed. But, you know, I travel now with a little sachet, so I'm thinking, yeah.
Keep the peppers in your pocket.
Just to make sure there's some pepper there. But like I said, it's when people, I always say these politicians should sit down around a meal and sort out the problems, because you would resolve everything at the dinner table. People, every culture I've been to, mealtime is a special occasion. You know what I'm saying? It's something that bonds you around food. And it goes back to our primal days. You know, if you're eating well and we've got heat or shelter, that's it. That's all you need. So I think, you know, get these politicians to start eating some good cultural food, man, and they'll be all right. They'll sort out the problems that they need to.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. When you're sitting down and you're sharing, whether it's African food, Asian food together, I don't care if, you know, the guy's white or black or anything, next to me, you're using your hands and you're sitting there, the souls do connect, and that, you know,
Listen,
you transcend those barriers of color.
My wife's Mauritian Polish. So she, you know, she's good French speaker. She speaks Polish really well. You know, you look at her, you'd think she's, I don't know, Indian or something like that. There's some North African in her. But Christmas Eve, we go to her mum and it's like 14 courses of barsh and pierogi and, you know, and we love it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just lots of food that comes out and you're just sharing that time. It's the giving of food, there's just something special in that. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't change it. She, you know, I knew nothing about Polish culture. If you looked at her, you'd never believe it. And, you know, the woman can speak fluent Polish. And that's part of what we are as our family. Christmas Eve, that's where we are, man.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I mean, every time I come to England, you know, I always look forward to seeing my friends and spending time with Hakim's family and visiting you as well. When I come here, there are always people from a different background.
Everywhere, yeah.
All together, and I think from these moments that we spend, we always learn something, and you know, then you get those values that you know, hopefully I will carry for the rest of my life. And these are these are always amazing experiences.
Yeah, I think so. I'd have to agree. It's beautiful just being with people from all over.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's just, and you sit down, you know, and if you have a shared passion and you can get together, and sometimes you put the world to rights and go through the, you know, life issues, and sometimes you're just laughing, you know, until you can't laugh no more. Whatever it is, it's just getting together and creating, I'd say creating the space to do it. You know, I always say, and what I try and tell people, you have to make a bit of time for your friends. You got to create moments. You know, don't forget where they're there, because one day you're gonna be, you know, to turn up to each other's funerals. It's too late. It's over. You know, so make time to see your people and share in moments and create moments. That's it.
This conversation has exemplified that, in that we've hit some deep topics, you know, identity, belonging, culture, divide, but we've also laughed a lot. We've shared about food, nice memories. You know,
so keeps everyone happy, man. I see you all smiling. Everyone's talking through like, you know, I'm hungry now, you know. That's right.
Yeah, that's the ups and downs of life, but I think we can all just say Thank you so much, Jason, for your time and for sharing these experiences. It's been a real blessing.
Thank you guys, thank you for even thinking, we've got a story to tell. So I really appreciate that. And it's a blessing to be part of what you guys are doing. So
Thank
I
you.
wish you all the best.
Any
Thank
final
you.
words to people, I guess, anyone watching?
Yeah, just be open. Try and find the nice things in life. Remember friendships. Friendships are important. And create moments, man. It's down to you. The world will be how you decide to make it.